discipline along with the love. Bella is like a brand new dog. She hasn't been in any fight since my visit, and the Paul Frank employees are all helping to keep her balanced. I am proud of you guys. Jillian said the big boy has really improved around other dogs, but now she sees that she has to make the same improvement. The Groggans report that Gracie is becoming more and more obedient, and that Jenny and Gracie are starting an intermediate training class together. They also plan to get more animals, including chickens. All of their hard work is a great tribute to Marley. If you really want a balanced dog, don't forget to exercise him every day, challenge him mentally, and when he's become submissive, don't forget to give him love.
Over on Sky One tomorrow at 10, the burden continues for Dan as he tries to change the path of fate in Journeyman. Next here on Sky 3, though, if you're planning on taking a boat trip anytime soon, get your pen and paper out and note down the top 10 dangers at sea.
A massive weekend on Sky Sports. Wembley's transformed for the Race of Champions. Big games from rugby's Heineken Cup. And it's Grand Slam Sunday in the Premier League.
Gerrard!
Liverpool, Man United,
Dynamite!
and Arsenal, Chelsea. To join in, press the red button now. Call 08705 166 661 or go to Sky Active.
What are you going to give your family this Christmas? Sainsbury's have got loads of ideas. For a nice nibble, try making crostini with chunks of creamy Garstang blue cheese and red onion chutney, then some crushed walnuts and a sprinkle of chives. I love cranberries with turkey, but they also make a great dessert. With Devon ice cream and crushed amaretti biscuits. And surprise them with a glass of Taste the Difference vintage cava with fresh pomegranate juice. So go on, try something new today!
Must-have gadgets now have a must-have battery to power them. Energizer Lithium. If your digital camera can take 90 photos using ordinary alkaline batteries, then Energizer Lithium will let you take 600. Energizer Lithium, it's what's inside that counts.
Hoods, hustlers, and a rat in a penthouse. Ben Affleck, Andy Garcia, Smokin' Aces. Start Saturday at 10:20 exclusively on Sky Movies Premiere.
You'll need to hold on to your hats at 8 as Thrill Rides Las Vegas screech in. Now though, pay attention, it's the top 10 dangers at sea.
The sea covers over 2/3 of the face of planet Earth. Since the beginning of time, travelers and explorers used the waterways of the world to their advantage, and it's always held an air of untamable adventure. However, the perils encountered on the water can be fearsome. So, just what should you look out for? What should you respect? And just what are the top 10 dangers experienced at sea?
When you get out on the water, you can't call 911.
Let me tell you, I've seen some things out there that are amazing.
Captains go down with their ships. That's all there is to it.
Whether passenger or skilled mariner, there's one danger that's dreaded more than most. At number 10 in our top 10 dangers at sea is something that strikes fear into the heart of even the most experienced of sailors. Traveling by sea is often a safe and pleasurable experience. There are many dangers, but more often than not, there are measures in place to prevent things getting out of control. There's one danger, though, that fills the most qualified sailor with more fear than any other.
A fire at sea tests one thing mainly, and that's your self-sufficiency.
It's not like a house where you can run outside. You're on a boat, the only thing you can do is abandon ship.
It's probably the most dreaded event that can happen at sea.
A fire on a cruise ship is every cruise liner's nightmare. With thousands of people on board, the potential for panic to spread and the ensuing mass evacuation is a dreaded nightmare.
Evacuating a major cruise ship is one of the biggest fears we have right now. And we're doing a lot of work with the industry and our marine safety people trying to develop contingency plans. In 1980, the cruise ship Prinsendaam sunk in Alaska, and we took 519 people off of it by helicopter. It took them 18 hours to get all those people off. And there was only 500. You figure 5,000, it's almost an impossible task.
The Scandinavian Star is an example of just what can happen on ill-equipped ferries if fire breaks out and the ship is unprepared for disaster. On the night of the 6th of April 1990, the Scandinavian Star set sail from Oslo with 383 passengers on board and a crew of 99. At around 1:45 a.m., as most of the passengers slept in their cabins, a fire mysteriously broke out on one of the lower decks.
On the Scandinavian Star, there were no sprinklers, and so the fire was able to spread unchecked. In addition, the walls and the corridors of the Scandinavian Star were made of an asbestos-type material, which was like having a fire within an insulating box. It concentrated the fire within the corridor, and so the fire was able to spread very, very rapidly.
The fire was discovered on a pile of clothes outside a cabin on the port side of Deck 4 and very quickly spread through the ship. Many passengers awoke and came out of the cabins to face thick smoke and hysteria.
It was an unfamiliar crew, and the crew themselves were literally no better off than the passengers in finding their way around the ship.
Part of the problem on the Scandinavian Star during the evacuation was that the signage was essentially in English and Spanish, the ship having been moved from the Caribbean region, and for the Scandinavian passengers on board who perhaps couldn't speak English, the signage wasn't of much help.
As the fire raged, panic spread throughout the ship, and in the confusion the captain made a fateful error, one that was to cost the lives of hundreds of people.
What is the situation at the moment, over? The situation is that they have all crew and passengers have abandoned the ship, and to the best of my knowledge, there is no one left aboard.
It wasn't until the next day that the fire crew, who had been told everyone was off the boat, finally put the fire out. On entering the ship, they made a gruesome discovery that 158 people had in fact perished inside.
People were trapped in the ship, and all the deaths were in fact due to smoke inhalation. The people who actually managed to get out on the deck managed to get off the ship fairly safely, but it was the people who were trapped in the accommodation in an unfamiliar vessel, and the crew were totally unable to help them.
To prevent this happening again, tests were carried out in Norway on the ship's corridors. Smoke was the main factor that killed people, and the walls were found to give off smoke containing a lethal cocktail of cyanide and carbon monoxide. But there was one last horrifying secret that the investigation uncovered.
The Scandinavian Star was an arson attack. But unfortunately, this arson attack was on a ship which had just gone into service, and it had gone into service, as it transpired, very prematurely.
Through extensive investigations, safety measures such as compulsory and adequate signage have been implemented on many such ferries, reducing the risk of fire causing a disaster on passenger ships. When on holiday at sea, the risk of fire is fairly slim. But there's one danger that is frighteningly too common, as the number 9 danger will show. The Vendée Globe is a single-handed round-the-world yacht race and represents one of sailing's toughest challenges. Tony Bullimore was an experienced sailor, and the challenge of the Vendée Globe with the treacherous seas of the South Atlantic represented an irresistible opportunity for him to test his sailing skills. New Year's Eve 1997, cold, tired and alone, Bullimore's nightmare began.
The winds were building all the time, the seas were getting more ferocious. One minute I'm sitting on top of the crest of a big wave, and then I'm surfing down it at 25, 30 knots.
Concentration and alertness were paramount for Bullimore. Even the slightest error could roll the boat. After 6 hours spent battling with high seas, Bullimore was exhausted and needed to rest. After setting the Exide Challenger on autopilot, disaster struck. The keel had snapped, and the yacht immediately capsized, sealing Bullimore in an airtight tomb of icy water.
The boat was relatively dry, and it was only when one of the big windows actually cracked and then caved in, and the water started to come into the hull like the Niagara Falls upside down. It was really quite horrific. Within seconds, you know, the 80% of the hull was filled with water. It was freezing cold. I had to rapidly struggle into a survival suit, and I had to look at new techniques of actually staying alive. You know, that's what it was all about.
Cold and trapped, the icy water began to take its toll. Unbeknown to Bullimore, the Australian Navy had launched their biggest sea rescue operation ever. His emergency beacon had alerted a spotter plane, and the Navy's fastest boat was deployed to aid in the rescue. It was 4 days away from Bullimore.
Dehydration, hypothermia and frostbite was really getting into me now. I thought I had about a day and a half, 2 days to go, and that would be it. I would be a goner.
Once the Navy finally reached Bullimore, there was little hope that he would still be alive. A rescue launch was sent over to search for any signs of life.
When I first heard the banging on the side of the hull, I was cautious. And then I thought I could have been hallucinating. It could have been a case of me, a tab of wishful thinking that had turned into an hallucination, but it wasn't.
With his last reserve of energy, Bullimore saw his opportunity to be rescued and swam out of his capsized vessel.
There was no way after 5 days of battling and fighting it out to keep alive that I was going to lose it in the last minute and a half. When I broke surface and saw the frigate, the Adelaide, right in front of me, I mean, it was just fantastic. I said, God, I've been saved. You know, it was really, really splendid.
Bullimore's rescuers had got to him just in time, as he was on the verge of death. He was lucky to be alive.
God, I never thought I'd be here. I've got to be honest, I've been in some situations in my life before which I could tell you about, but this was the hardest. I do believe, in my case, I'm very much a natural-born survivor, but I think that a lot's got to do with the individual, your strength of character, the strength of determination, and the sheer desire to stay alive. You know, that's what it's all about.
All of the people that we feature have inspired others.
Happy Christmas!
People that have received these gifts are extraordinary.
Peter, I know all you've ever done is think of other people.
I'm taking you and the boys to Disneyland, to Lapland, to Salzburg in Austria.
Oh, yes!
I believe in the power of Christmas.
Noel's Christmas Presents, Sunday the 23rd at 6, Sky 1 and Sky 1 HD.
Southern comfort for everyone?
SoCo for everyone?
Everybody, let's go out tonight. You bring the sunshine, make me feel alright. I'll pour my heart out while I toast our health. If I've got friends, I don't need anyone else. If I ain't got you, then
Biliss from Babyliss. Straighten as you dry. Its ceramic plates gently grip and straighten your hair for a silky smooth finish. And now there's a Biliss for shorter styles too, with the same ceramic plates to give you smoothness and shine. Whatever your style, Biliss from Babyliss. Straighten as you dry.
Experience a place so wonderful, you'll have to believe it to see it. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. In cinemas December 14th.
This season, transform yourself. Max Factor introduced new Miracle Touch Liquid Illusion, our first ever solid to liquid foundation that transforms to create a more perfect you. Create an illusion, our ultimate even finish. Be you, be beautiful. New Miracle Touch Liquid Illusion Foundation from Max Factor.
She's unforgivable.
Unforgivable Woman, the new scent for women from Shanjan. Available now.
I always get the jitters before going out on set. But if I think I look good in the mirror, I feel good on the inside too. That's why I use Ice Shine from Pantene. It gives my hair amazing shine. So when my hair shines, I shine. Just like that.
He's taking down the city's biggest crime family. But he never imagined he'd come face to face.
All the places, you gotta come to my place.
With his own brother.
I'm done with you!
Joaquin Phoenix, Mark Wahlberg, Ava Mendes, and Robert Duvall. We own the night.
Scottish smoked salmon. Perfect on a blini, on a bagel, and on a budget. Tesco. Every little helps.
History now. Living it. Making it. Magic. Real magic.
It can happen every day. You just gotta want that feeling. And if you like it and you want it, you'll get greedy for it.
Tony Bullimore was an experienced sailor who knew how to control his craft. However, our number 8 danger at sea is the risk taken by people not equipped or skilled to deal with their crafts or the elements. When people travel abroad, the beach is often their first port of call, but many seek the extra thrill of high speed on the water with jet skis or speedboats. Although usually safe, when mixed with high spirits and alcohol, they can often form a deadly combination.
There isn't a time where I get in the water where I don't think of what I saw that day.
It's very easy to get hurt or killed while you're having a good time.
When in a hot climate with beautiful clear waters, one of the easiest ways to explore the seas is with a snorkel and fins. It opens up all kinds of opportunities to view another world, oblivious to all above the waves. However, this means it's harder for people on the water to spot you. In the Florida Keys, spearfishing is a popular pastime, but it can have its hidden dangers. One day, in October 1997, Don Dobson and his best friend, high school teacher Eric Wolf, were on a weekend break and went out in their boat as they had done since childhood.
We had gone out for the day to basically spearfish. When we got to our first site, it was the first dive in the morning. It was approximately about 10 o'clock. I had gone back to the boat to drop off a fish. I had repositioned the boat after I dropped that fish off and gotten back into the water. But before I'd gotten back in the water, I noticed a boat heading into our general direction. As I saw this boat approaching me, I tried to wave him off. I had bright orange gloves. We wore bright neon-colored mask and fins so that we could be visible. The next thing I heard was the revving of the engines. In the back of my mind, I knew something had happened.
Don saw blood in the water and panicked, immediately searching the area for his friend.
As soon as he got into the water, he spotted Mr. Wolf lying on the bottom. They went over there, retrieved Mr. Wolf, and started trying to resuscitate him, which proved fruitless. Mr. Wolf was deceased.
Eric Wolf had been knocked unconscious by the boat and died from drowning.
There's so many people on the water nowadays that if you were to go out there and observe it for a full day, you would see 5 to 10 incidences where somebody could have gotten hurt or did get hurt every single day. And it's almost as though it's a free-for-all.
You have to be aware and alert at all times. You have to be on the lookout for other careless boaters. You have to operate your boat in a safe and prudent manner. If not, you're going to hurt someone, or you're going to kill someone, or kill yourself.
What may seem harmless fun could end up as someone else's nightmare. When holidaying near the sea, the threat from watercraft can come unexpectedly. There is one danger, however, that can lurk in the back of the mind when in the water. Our number 7 danger, the dreaded shark attack. The shark is truly the king of the sea. At the top of the food chain, they date back at least 400 million years, surviving 4 global extinctions. Since 1952, sharks account for some 79 attacks off the west coast of America. Shark attack victims are few and far between. However, this is scant consolation for those who have been attacked.
I was about 50 yards offshore, right where the waves were breaking, and maybe 6 to 8 feet of water.
A keen bodyboarder, 19-year-old Jonathan Cathrane had been surfing at Stinson Beach, California for years. Then, on a day like any other, his nightmare began.
My right hand hit something underwater and kind of spooked me. I wasn't really sure what it was. I was pretty scared at that point. I thought that it might have been a shark. So I turned and started paddling toward shore as fast as I could really go.
But there was to be no escape for Jonathan. A couple of seconds later, the shark attacked.
The shark came and hit me from underneath on my right side and flipped me over and brought me underwater. He swam with me underwater for a little while, and I tried to grab on, put my arms around it, and I couldn't. And the next thing I did was grabbed its gills, just kind of like handlebars, and it let go.
When the shark released its grip, Jonathan saw his chance to escape.
As I came to the surface, I knew that I had injuries to my leg. I didn't know what they were, or how bad they were, or if I was bleeding all over, or anything like that. I didn't look. I was just focused on getting to shore.
Despite the injuries to his leg, Jonathan managed to fight his way back to the shore and was immediately rushed to hospital, where after 7 hours of surgery and 700 stitches, he began to make a recovery. Although great white sharks are indigenous to the Californian coastline, attacks like Jonathan's are still considered to be rare.
I think in Australia they are a bit more dangerous, and there are some accounts down there of sharks coming back, hitting first and then actually coming back.
The aggressive nature of sharks in the southern hemisphere can be accounted for by looking at their feeding habits.
I think the difference between California and Australia is the fact that the seal and sea lion population here has been increasing, and so the sharks have a good prey resource to feed upon in their seals and sea lions. Whereas down there, the seal populations are declining slightly, and so the sharks are a little bit hungrier and maybe going for more of a variety of things to eat.
Jonathan has now returned to the water, but will always remain mindful of his encounter with the shark.
I have a fear of sharks now, not a hatred, but I really don't want to swim in the water with one, so it's more of a respect.
There is an old mariner's saying that there are 2 time-honored dangers of the sea, although only one comes from below the waves. The other is our number 6 danger, for they say that if the sharks don't get you, the pirates will. Although piracy has existed almost as long as sailing, it seemed that by the end of the 19th century, the seafaring crime had been eradicated. Many people have an almost romantic notion of piracy, associating it with skull and crossbones, wooden legs, and buried treasure. Modern-day piracy, however, is far more sinister. It's more likely to involve Uzis and balaclavas than cannons and pieces of 8.
He put his sword to my throat and said to me that Captain, if the alarm sounds, you will die.
Last year, there were more pirate attacks than there have ever been before. It is a major problem.
Since the 1960s and 70s, some people have realized that there are lucrative takings to be had with relatively little risk involved from attacking all types of vessels, especially large merchant ships far away from home. Over the last 10 years alone, incidents of piracy have increased by over 200%.
The pirates that attack the commercial ships generally attack them for the cash or gold they carry on board. You may not know this, but some commercial ships carry the payroll for the crew in U.S. currency or in gold, something that's easily transferred or cashed throughout the world.
Far from being a romanticized piece of history, piracy is a very real and life-threatening experience, as Merchant Navy Captain Peter Newton found out while sailing in the South China Sea.
The ship was attacked by pirates at about 9:30 at night. We were about 20 miles off land, and we were outside the area that was known to be dangerous, and I heard a noise and saw some people enter my cabin, and they were all wearing black ski masks. One of them was actually carrying a sword, and he came straight up to me. He said to me, "Do not be afraid, Captain. Make any sound and you will die."
Captain Newton's assailants tied him up, beat him, then ransacked his cabin with ruthless efficiency, demanding the safe be opened.
They took all the money which was inside, which was about $20,000, which was money we used to pay the crew and pay for stores. I was utterly convinced that they were going to kill me.
Having got what they wanted, the pirates slipped away into the night as quietly as they had arrived, sparing Captain Newton's life. It's cases like this, and more importantly, the worrying increase in attacks on smaller vessels, such as pleasure boats, that's prompted Dave Kellerman to set up a company especially aimed at helping people combat modern piracy.
The most important thing you can do to prevent an act of piracy is to keep a good lookout. We teach 3 principles here: detection, deterrence, and defense, in that order. The private boat owners that come to us, they may be going to the Bahamas, and they just may want to provide their family a little more safety and security in what could be considered a remote area. The Bahamas aren't wild by any means, but there are times when you're 4, 5, 6 hours away from any authorities.
With sailing holidays becoming more popular, this line of business is an increasingly important one. However, the high seas will always be a lawless and dangerous place to be, and despite his brush with the pirates on the South China Sea, Captain Newton continues to do what he sees as his duty.
You feel regret. You feel regret you're not going to see your wife again or your children, but at the end of the day, you are a captain of a ship, and that is of your primary importance. You have to be absolutely clear on this point, that it's your job, it's what you do, it's your life.
This December, Christmas has come early with brand new Simpsons on Sundays. That's like Christmas every Sunday.
What a wonderful night.
An early Christmas present just for you. Brand new Simpsons, Sunday at 7, only on Sky One.
Gorgeous this Christmas, with up to half price off selected electrical beauty and fine fragrance.
You're going to destroy Springfield! Dad, do something!
Lives will be lost.
Go on.
People will perish.
It's really the same thing.
And Schwarzenegger will be president.
I was elected to lead, not to read.
The Simpsons movie, on DVD today.
Oh, look, a pig wearing a hat!
Why not give yourself a Christmas treat with the KFC Deluxe Boneless Box? 8 pure breast mini fillets, popcorn chicken, large sides, fries and a Pepsi. The KFC Deluxe Boneless Box. The one treat you can unwrap before Christmas.
When anyone can play, everyone can play. On Xbox 360.
He's taking down the city's biggest crime family. But he never imagined he'd come face to face.
All the places, you gotta come to my place.
With his own brother.
I'm done with you!
Joaquin Phoenix, Mark Wahlberg, Eva Mendes, and Robert Duvall. We own the night.
Tesco crackers. These have 2 of everything, so everyone's a winner. Especially the person buying them. Tesco. Every little helps.
Text your head off this Christmas with Top Up Friday from T-Mobile. And get the Nokia 6300 for just $79.99.
Enjoy the intense detail of Sky movies in high definition. Only when you bring your HD-ready TV together with Sky HD. With Sky Plus as standard. Sky. Believe in better.
Now, onto the number 5 danger at sea. Shipping is the oldest and most traditional method of transport. Whether it's passengers or cargo, history has seen many accidents and tragedies from the Lusitania to the Titanic. But when human negligence plays a part, then the action is inexcusable. Alaska has one of the most untouched coastlines in the world. With the transportation of crude oil operating in the area, many felt that this was an ecological disaster waiting to happen. Then one day, it did.
The problem began for Exxon Valdez when the captain gave instructions to go a little bit south to avoid the icebergs that were coming off the Columbia Glacier.
They got off track and hit a small reef, and it pulled the side of the boat, and apparently they tried to get the boat off before they called anybody, in which case they made the hole worse. And once they vented their tanks to the ocean, it just kept spilling.
Nothing happened to try to contain that oil spill within the first 3 or 4 days of the spill happening. And after 3 or 4 days, when that oil had been leaking from the Exxon Valdez, the wind got up, the weather got up, and that was really the way the oil spread and caused such a major problem.
The 11 million gallons of crude oil leaked from the Valdez devastated local wildlife and infected over 1,000 miles of coastline. However, it was revealed that the captain of the tanker was drunk at the time of the accident.
The Exxon Valdez was an absolutely classic case of a crew and a captain who weren't really up to the job. You had a captain who was probably drunk. You certainly had crew members who were extremely overtired and shouldn't have been on watch for so long.
The Exxon Valdez saw a reckless crew neglect care for their hazardous cargo, causing an environmental tragedy. However, for the traveler, reckless crews are even more frightening, especially when you could be at risk. The Greek islands provide a popular vacation spot for travelers from around the world, and local ferries provide a convenient way for them to be explored. However, recently, many industry experts have called into question the safety of these ferries.
Historically, the Greeks have always been a great maritime nation, and they're great sailors. But Greek shipping companies are notoriously underfinanced, and therefore they do things on the cheap.
On the night of the 26th of September 2000, the ferry Express Samina was making a routine crossing when tragedy struck. Only 2 miles out of the port of Paros, the Express Samina ploughed straight into a well-known rocky outcrop.
Basically, it sank into 20 minutes in record time. There was like chaos and the people panicked and they started jumping in the sea. The most important bit was that nobody was on the bridge according to the reports.
With speculation mounting upon why the bridge was empty at the time of the accident, the world's media soon uncovered the shocking truth.
The ferry's captain is being accused of criminal negligence. When he should have been on the bridge, he was with other senior officers watching football on television.
It was not just the absence of the crew on the bridge that was called into question, but also their actions after the impact.
Survivors said that they felt that the crew was not trained for situations like that because they underestimated the accident, and basically although the ship was sinking, they were asking the passengers to sit down and stay calm.
82 innocent passengers lost their lives on what should have been a simple routine journey. Greece went into a state of mourning for their dead, and the captain and crew were arrested and are now serving an extensive jail sentence.
You know, Greece has never seen a human tragedy like that before, and that's why it has been dubbed as the Greek Titanic, because something like that has never happened in the past.
People behaving in a life-threatening manner can come in many guises. Sometimes it's recklessness, sometimes it's self-preservation.
Everybody stand up and go to the forward part of the vessel. Roger, Captain. Good call. Is there any people in the water right now?
Miami, Florida is situated some 90 miles from Cuba. Ever since Fidel Castro took over in 1959, the United States has welcomed many Cubans who've risked their lives to make the treacherous journey across the Florida Straits to American soil.
Right now, the levels are growing. We're probably picking up 30 to 40 migrants a week, maybe a little bit more.
The Coast Guards have to be ever vigilant, but also help protect the lives of those who make the journey.
In 1995, the U.S. government and the government of Cuba made an agreement on trying to stop the mass migration we had just dealt with in '94. We had about 40,000 Cubans come across, and it became known as the feet wet, feet dry policy. Feet wet is if we catch a Cuban migrant before they hit the U.S. mainland soil in any depth of water. As long as they're not on the beach, they're generally taken back. Once they reach the shore, then they're released into the community.
This law has made Cubans desperate to reach American soil, and if caught at sea, they'll often do anything they can to fend off the Coast Guard in a vain attempt to reach land. Would-be immigrants have taken to coming armed with knives or machetes and will even threaten to harm themselves in an attempt to keep the U.S. Coast Guard at bay.
Gasoline. They're throwing gasoline all over everyone. He's eating it! He's eating the poison! The gentleman is eating the rat poison.
There's a whole list of reasons people want to come, and unfortunately they choose to come by small boats, grossly unsafe. So that brings in the Coast Guard's humanitarian role is to try to save them.
The problem of human traffic is a global one. Here in the UK, cases of human smuggling have been found on the cross-channel ferries between the busy port of Dover and the French port of Calais. Often, unbeknown to ferry passengers, there's also a quota of hidden human cargo on board, making the same journey, though sometimes with disastrous consequences.
It was about 12:30. I was sound asleep in bed when I received a call to tell me that my presence was required at Dover. A lorry had been stopped, and in the back of the lorry were people believed to be Chinese nationals. By the time I arrived there, it was clear that we're dealing with a major tragedy. There were 60 people in the back of the lorry. 2 had survived. Unfortunately, 58 were dead.
The Chinese nationals had been tricked into entering the country by a criminal organization known as the Snakeheads, who'd promised them a better life in Britain in return for enormous sums of money. Crammed into the rear of the lorry, with no space to move, they perished when driver Perry Wacker closed the only air vent in the sealed container, suffocating 58 of them. Wacker denied having any knowledge of the migrants being in the truck at all.
If we could find the forensic link between that load and Perry Wacker, then we could show that what he was telling us was a lie and that he was involved in this illegal transportation.
Through painstaking police work in the UK and in Holland, police eventually discovered the driver's fingerprints at the warehouse where the lorry was loaded. They soon had enough evidence to convict Wacker of the 58 counts of manslaughter, and he received 14 years in prison.
Well, I'm certain that there's been no other cases resulting in this level of death in the transportation of human beings. Certainly the first case I've had to deal with, I'm pretty certain that it's going to be a unique case within the United Kingdom. And I hope it's the last case like this that I have to deal with.
Travelling by boat is more often than not an enjoyable experience. For some, though, it's meant facing their own mortality. Whether swimming, surfing or scuba diving, it's important to have a healthy respect for the sea. When precaution and safety is not adhered to, there can be some very serious consequences. Diving holidays are hugely popular, with warm beaches boasting attractive coral reefs and stunning aquatic life. Unfortunately, divers may only have access to facilities whilst on holiday. As a result, diving skills and practices can become a little rusty, and without consistent diving, basic training can be forgotten.
Scuba diving is one of the safest sports that you could ever get involved with, as long as you follow the guidelines that are established when you learn how to dive, when you actually get your certification.
However, even the most experienced of divers can make mistakes which can prove to have dire consequences.
Complacency in diving causes accidents.
Ken Lundy from Key Largo had been diving for over 18 years in the Florida Keys, logging over 2,000 dives. The Florida Keys is renowned for having some of the best diving in the world, offering the third largest natural living reef system on Earth. On a day like any other, Ken Lundy went diving with his friends. That particular day, he was spearfishing and found a great spot to catch his fish.
I found a really big mutton snapper, a 21-pounder, a large one. I shot him, got him back to the boat. My friends came up and they were wanting to leave. But I was all psyched up. I just boated the biggest mutton snapper I'd ever seen, much less caught.
Excited about his successful catch, Ken, against his better judgment, decided to return to the reef to see if he could find more of the large school of mutton snappers, when something else caught his eye.
One of my hobbies is to collect anchors. I salvage anchors from the deep side of Davis where the fishermen fish. They lose anchors there all the time.
Distracted by his find, time and air were running out for Ken. Whilst trying to drag the anchor to the surface, disaster struck. The anchor dropped down onto his equipment and killed off his supply of air.
The anchor dropped onto my underwater scooter, across my spear gun, across the back of my tank.
Ken was 120 feet deep with no supply of air. He now faced a race against time to reach the surface.
I knew in my heart that I'd screwed up big time.
Because Ken was forced to ascend so quickly, the rapid changes of depth caused bubbles to form in his bloodstream, resulting in a dangerous embolism.
All of a sudden, I started feeling the effects of the decompression sickness and the embolism. Pain in my elbows, pain in my knees, started vomiting. I couldn't control my movements of my body. I was basically going into convulsions and unconsciousness.
Ken's friends quickly headed back for the shore and contacted the emergency services, who alerted Mariners Hospital, home to the local decompression chamber.
I arrived at Mariners Hospital in a semi-conscious mode. I remember bits and pieces of being put into the chamber, the admission.
A hyperbaric decompression chamber is a pressurized room enabling doctors to administer treatment to diving victims in the exact conditions of pressure they faced under the water. With any potential diving injury, the best therapy is to immediately administer oxygen. However, Ken Lundy had exceeded his diving limitations by such an extent that the danger was far from over.
I was scared to death to go in that chamber. I was scared to death that it wasn't going to work. I had faith in modern medicine, but it's just, I was in such bad shape.
With high-powered, pressurized gas being pumped around, a decompression chamber can be a very noisy and claustrophobic place. Ken responded to the treatment and eventually started to pull through. He was very fortunate, and his diving accident was an extreme and rare case. Generally, scuba diving accidents will happen when people fail to follow the necessary precautions.
Stay within your personal limits. Plan your dive and dive your plan. Follow the guidelines that are given to you, and don't enter the water if you're not comfortable with it.
Now, every morning I look at life a different way. Whereas, if it hadn't been for the treatment for the Mariners crew, I could have been a vegetable. I could have been paralyzed.
This season is all about the big ego.
The thing that will set me apart is raw talent.
I probably have the best taste here.
Thick skin is so now.
The outfit was a total bore.
You stepped over the boundary of taste.
The new black, seeing red.
Enough, not this morning. Whether I like you or not. Yeah.
Just think drama.
I don't understand why these people can't get along.
Drama.
We're gonna have to ask you to leave.
And more drama.
The show must go on.
Project Runway, Sunday at 7 on Sky 3.
Armani Code, the fragrance for women. Giorgio Armani.
With unlimited access to 1 million songs from Vodafone, you'll always find the right one.
As soon as I wake up, any night, any day, I know that it's you I need to take the blues away. It must be love, love, love. Nothing more.
Vodafone. Make the most of now.
There are all sorts of people in the Army. To find out more, text ARMY to 61110 for your free DVD.
You won't find any coins in Tesco's finest Christmas pud, but you'll find a few left over in your pocket. Tesco, every little helps.
เมนูไก่ซอสพริกตำรับไทยๆแสนอร่อยจาก Subway Stores ทำตามความต้องการของคุณ Fresh in front of you Subway Eat Fresh
To create an extraordinary vodka, impurity must be removed. Clearly purified, clearly Smirnoff.
Black Excess. Black Excess for her. The new fragrance by Paco Rabanne.
Make your Christmas dreams come true. Win $5 grand every Christmas for life with the Christmas bonus scratch card.
All of the people that we feature have inspired others. People that have received these gifts are extraordinary. I believe in the power of Christmas.
Knowles Christmas Presents, Sunday the 23rd at 6, Sky 1 and Sky 1 HD.
Thrill Rides Las Vegas is after the top 10 dangers at sea.
There is a danger that not even the most safety-conscious of seafarers can do anything about. One that can wreak havoc and devastation on both land and sea within a matter of seconds. It's Mother Nature's way of unleashing her fury. It's a storm.
It's very important to respect the weather because the weather is very unpredictable. It can come up on you in a short amount of time and catch you completely off guard.
One of the greatest dangers of weather at sea is the unpredictable thunderstorm, driving powerful waves, wind, rain, and lightning. Lightning causes more injuries in the state of Florida than anywhere else in the United States, and despite knowledge and warnings, many people are still killed by this climatic hazard. Jeff Justice and his partner John Carvey have been fishing together for over 3 years and are great friends because of all their time spent together hunting for bass in the Florida Everglades. On a day like any other, the sea was calm, the bass were biting, and danger was just over the horizon.
About 1:30, a real severe storm moved in. We didn't think much about it. It was just cloudy like it is today, but real windy and raining very hard and lightning all around us, real bad. But we fished in it before, we didn't care.
A fishing rod in a thunderstorm is like a lightning rod in your hand. And that's exactly what it will act like if lightning strikes.
It was 2 p.m. when Jeff was struck by lightning.
All I remember is when the lightning hit me, I was paralyzed.
Everything got bright and everything got dead calm, still. My hearing, I lost all my hearing, and then all of a sudden I heard a loud ringing in my ears. And it just stunned me. I don't know what happened, but I did feel the boat shake.
All I know is I woke up, my head hanging over the edge of the boat, and I looked up and I was steaming from the smoke. My arm here, the clothes were blown off of me, my pants were ripped out.
I heard Jeff call my name, says, "Johnny, I've been hit." And I looked over and looked down. He was spread across the deck.
I'm like asking God, why me? Why me? Now I got 3 girls to raise, and I thought I was dying. I really did. I even convinced my fishing partner that I was on my way out.
I felt so helpless, it was unbelievable. Here's my best friend laying on the boat, and I'll tell you what, I thought he was gonna die because you could just see the burns on him.
John goes start the motor, the boat don't start. So we are by ourselves with no motor and no way back.
Stranded and alone on the boat, the future looked bleak for Jeff. Until 20 minutes later, a fellow fisherman came by and immediately called for medical assistance.
Mr. Justice sustained multiple injuries from the lightning strike that included partial paralysis, loss of memory, and some burns to the skin of his left side. These are all quite particular injuries that we do see with lightning.
He told me that if he didn't make it, I could have his sunglasses. And kind of at that point, I figured he was going to make it, because he's got such a good sense of humor and he's got a good outlook on life.
Mr. Justice was an extremely lucky man. He turned out to be an excellent patient, and he's recovering quite nicely, and we're very proud of him.
Jeff Justice and his fishing partner John were both very lucky, as they saw the ordeal as a life-changing experience. When preparing for a journey, it's always worth checking weather forecasts before departure.
I said, why am I fishing? There's no reason for me to be out here. I should never have been here. And to think from that point to 24 hours later, I got my feeling back. I'm thinking, how could I say that, why am I fishing, because that's my life. But I'm going to spend a lot more time with my family now, a lot more time.
I've got tremendous respect for lightning now, which I don't think I did before. And most people do have they consider themselves as being a person that's never going to happen to. And believe me, I know now that I was 6 inches from it, and I'm lucky to be here.
For a recap of the top 10 dangers at sea: fire on board, capsizing, uncontrollable vessels, shark attack, piracy, reckless cruise, human traffic, diving dangers, and freak weather. Now, for the greatest danger at sea. Even in the calmest of sea conditions, the slightest of human errors can lead to tragedy. Ferries transport millions of people and vehicles every year. Their massive car decks have large doors at both ends of the ship, so vehicles can enter at the front and exit the back within minutes of docking. The design is simple and efficient, but the open deck can be deadly. A ferry was at the centre of the UK's worst peacetime shipping disaster since the Titanic. In 1987, the Herald of Free Enterprise started out on its return voyage from the Belgian port of Zeebrugge to England in calm seas. 500 passengers were on board that fateful night, and one of them was Simon Osborne with 7 school friends.
It was March, it was early March, it was very cold and it was dark, you know, it was night time. I think the first thing we did was go for a meal on one of the ship's cafes or restaurants, and then we'd basically gone our separate ways. You know, some of the guys wanted to get duty free, some of the guys wanted to go and find a seat, maybe have a snooze or whatever. I arranged to take some perfume back for a friend, so I made my way to the perfume counter.
The unthinkable was about to happen. Unbeknown to passengers and the crew, the car deck door had been left open and seawater began pouring in.
There was an awful coincidence of disasters that happened that night. First of all, the ship went into port with very much more ballast water in it than it would normally have. Therefore, when she left, her bow was much lower in the water than it would normally have been. And when she did leave, they omitted to shut the bow doors, and the ship accelerated away, and the water was driven literally into the car deck.
I was queuing at the perfume counter, and suddenly there was quite a violent jolt. And a woman in front of me started to scream, you know, and that took me aback a little. But within seconds of that, the ship turned over, and it was literally as quick as that. And I usually describe it as knocking a glass over. It seemed as quick as that, you know.
Water in an unobstructed space like a car deck just rushes from side to side. It piles up on one side and drastically affects the stability of the ship. And the ship gets a list, more water goes in, and the ship just rolls over.
It was chaos. There were things crashing down on us, people whistling past me, and I slid down on my back and ended up standing on the front of the bar, which had gone from vertical to horizontal. So I was actually standing up straight in a ship that was on its side, with basically the contents of that crashing down around my ears.
23 minutes after leaving port, the Herald of Free Enterprise turned onto its side and began to sink. The ship rolled onto a sandy bank, and a third of the ship was still above the water. The rescue services were on the scene within 15 minutes. They tried to reach many passengers stuck inside. However, many had already been killed, not through drowning, but through being crushed by falling debris and the shock of the icy water.
Emergency lighting started to come on. And again, it's a scene of real horror, you know. By this stage, even people had been killed by falling from one side of the ship to the other, by stuff that was falling down, you know, if you can imagine. Things like fruit machines, tables, bins, you know, falling from one side of the ship to the other. They were hitting people. People were being knocked out, and in some cases actually killed by the impact of these objects that were falling.
As the night wore on, the Belgian emergency services smashed the windows on the side of the ship to try and free any survivors trapped inside.
I was very weak with cold, but I managed to pull myself through the debris, through the dead bodies, and position myself under one of the windows on the side of the ship that had been smashed in. And there was a diver there, a Belgian diver, Belgian frogman, who put me in a harness, and I was then winched out of the side window and onto the side of the ship.
Simon Osborne was one of the lucky survivors. Even with the tireless efforts of the Belgian rescuers, others were not as fortunate.
2 of the 8 of us never made it, never came back, and we don't really know where they were, what happened to them.
Days after the disaster, the media speculation fueled as to what had caused this tragedy. When reports came out that the Herald of Free Enterprise had left port with its bow doors open, there was uproar. Many claimed that the ferry operator was enforcing cost-cutting methods and fast turnarounds of boats in port, hence leading to the simple mistake that claimed 193 lives.
Being involved in the Herald of Free Enterprise disaster is a shocking and I suppose a life-changing experience. You know, it's one of those things that you never think is going to happen to you. Perhaps, if anything, I've been a little bit more laid back about things, you know, and not been so concerned about the smaller things in life, if you like. As the saying goes, worse things happen at sea, and believe me, they do.
From sharks to pirates, fires to diving disasters, the ocean can hold many perils. In the age of the transportation revolution, travelling by sea is still one of the most reliable, practical and exciting modes of travel. Remember though, it pays to have a healthy respect for the sea.
Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz have been wronged by their men and need a break, so decide to play a game of transatlantic house swapping. Also starring Jude Law and Jack Black, The Holiday is over on Sky Movies premiere this Saturday at 8. Next here on Sky 3 tonight though, Thrill Rides Las Vegas.
A massive weekend on Sky Sports. Wembley's transformed for the race of champions. Big games from rugby's Heineken Cup. And it's Grand Slam Sunday in the Premier League. Gerrard! Liverpool, Man United, Dynamite! And Arsenal, Chelsea. To join in, press the red button now. Call 08705 166 661 or go to Sky Active.
This week only at WH Smith. Are you listening? This week only at WH Smith, spend £20 in store and get my Sunday lunch or my fast food for only £5. Both books are packed with fantastic recipes from the F word. Only a £5. That's not bad for me. This Christmas, think WH Smith.
Gorgeous this Christmas with up to half price off selected electrical beauty and fine fragrance.
Tesco crackers. These have 2 of everything, so everyone's a winner. Especially the person buying them. Tesco, every little helps.
Babyliss U-Curl. Now in a single stroke you can create salon perfect curls. Babyliss U-Curl. Perfect curls in a single stroke.
I'm going outside the hut.
Adventure. Wow! Starts with a...
Hi!
From the creators of Shrek.
Oh!
What's up, people? DreamWorks B-Movie.
Sky Movies premiere, brought to you by Viera HD from Panasonic.
Starting Saturday for 7 days. Hoods, heavies, hustlers, and a rat in a penthouse. All wanting a big slice of cake. Ben Affleck, Andy Garcia, Ray Liotta. Smoke and Aces starts Saturday at 10:20 exclusively on Sky Movies premiere.
At 9 tonight, tragedy looms over the Montecito in Las Vegas. Now, though, more action from Thrill Rides Las Vegas.
In its 100 years, Las Vegas has been known as the new city of lights, entertainment capital of the world, Sin City, and Jewel of the West. These are just a few names used to describe this pleasure capital of the USA. Las Vegas will always be known as a haven for high-rolling gamblers, beautiful showgirls, and top-name entertainers. Today, this fascinating city has adopted a new way to give visitors the thrill of life in the fast lane. Las Vegas is now the undisputed capital for wild rides and amazing thrills, taking their place alongside showgirls and slot machines as trademarks of the city. In the last decade, a variety of high-tech marvels has sprung up along and around the famed Las Vegas Strip. From a roller coaster flying 900 feet above the Strip to jumping 200 feet head-first into a pool. If it's spine-tingling thrills you're after, you've come to the right place. Experience the sensation of gliding through the air weightlessly. Or feel powerful G-forces as a stunt plane spins out of control with you pinned back in the passenger seat. Everything is to the max in Las Vegas, and thrill rides are no exception. Welcome to a side of the neon capital of the world that keeps the heart racing in a way that no craps table or slot machine can ever match. This is Thrill Rides, Las Vegas style. Today, Las Vegas is pushing the envelope, constantly introducing bigger, faster, and more extreme thrill rides that defy gravity and leave breathless passengers begging for more.
Oh, it's gonna be another 25 years, I'll tell you.
America's largest indoor theme park is encased beneath 5 acres of glass. The Adventure Dome is a thrill seeker's delight.
The philosophy behind the Adventure Dome was to bring in something different, something that wasn't available up and down the Strip, an indoor theme park, and nobody could imagine it. The draw for the thrill rides and the thrill seekers, I think, is just they can't get enough. People now, they're adrenaline addicts, and they love the thrill of doing what other people are afraid to do.
It's what I get for letting my daughter talk me into it.
It's a trade-off. He comes shopping with me, and I go in these things with him.
Canyon Blaster, Adventure Dome's most popular ride, goes 140 feet in the air and travels at about 55 miles per hour.
Once you go over the lift, you experience about 2 Gs, and then when you go through the